And then we're also going to watch a couple of those shorts.
Right. Yeah,
I'll
that'll be
find a
good.
link to another one of those. And if you guys are okay with it, it may throw us off, it may put us behind, it may screw up everything, but we're probably going to have a special guest at some point
Oh,
joining the
okay.
Skype. So, Alan, look at Alan's face.
Okay. Love these unannounced surprises.
You fucking old man. Wanting your routine. I don't
It
know
better,
about this newfangled shit that's going on.
it better be Dave Sprouse, baby.
Yeah. Is it George Lucas? Then fuck you.
Exactly. Either Harrison Ford or nobody.
Yeah. Not even Harrison Ford. He has to come another night. We got shit planned. I had shit planned. I got a whole list here, motherfucker. He's got to wait.
I'm glad that I've been officially labeled as the old fogey of the group now.
No, you're not at all.
No, I'm kidding.
I just the way you acted was kind of funny. Like, oh, it's surprises.
Get off my lawn.
Surprises. I love all these surprises.
I know.
They're fucking
Yeah,
fantastic.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Fantastic.
Yeah.
What is it, 7 o'clock? It's my bedtime. I send you to the doctor.
Here's $10. Now count backwards. You get the 1. I keep the 9. That's math, bitch.
Oh.
All right. Sorry.
Okay. All right. All right, I'm going to start, whether you like it or not. All right, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another regular episode of the Cantina Club. It's been a while. We're going to cover this week. This episode is top 10 all-time favorite Star Wars characters. And this includes anything in the Star Wars universe, not just movie-related, animated, whatever you want, books only, whatever. We're gonna list all of those, and we're gonna count them down from 10 to 1, and give a brief, brief description of why we feel that character's in that place on our list. All right, so we'll be back right after this.
I got to redo my list. I didn't know it was the whole universe. You know, everybody sing a you know. Raise the roof with the Ewok crew. Everybody, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Sing it with me. You know,
Yep,
cheaper double done. Celebrate the love.
Yep.
Put your teddy bears in the air, wave them like you just don't give a care.
Five teddy bears.
Fireworks, teddy bears, and
Five.
And we're back. Top 10. Settle down, damn. What's going on?
Okay.
We're celebrating the club.
I'm about to eradicate your half of the screen.
All right, we're back, and we're going to jump into our top 10 all-time favorite Star Wars character countdown. And coming in first with number 10 is Greedo. What do you got?
Okay, my number 10, and this list is going to be kind of plain, and I'll keep it brief. R2-D2. The little droid that could and did over and over and over again for every single movie.
Over.
Did he miss a movie so far? Solo. He's not in Solo.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can hardly fault him for that.
Yeah.
So,
obviously. That wouldn't make any sense
He
at all.
was busy elsewhere.
he was busy. That little droid did it. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to say? R2-D2, at my number 10 spot, it was a choice of droids, and I went with R2-D2 because he's freaking awesome.
R2-D2 it is.
God bless you, Kenny Baker. We miss you very much.
Yes, we do. Sorely missed. All right, so Gundark, you're number 10.
Okay, my number 10. There you go.
It's
See
a
him?
trap.
Can you see him?
It's
Yeah.
a trap.
Oh, he had to make the top 10 for me.
Uh-huh.
And this image is actually from one of our old newsletters when we were kids. whenever we saw the first trailer for Return of the Jedi, and Admiral Akbar shouts, "It's the trap!" and you see all of the TIE fighters unleashed on the Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon and the Rebel forces.
So
And I think
that was our summary of in the newsletter of
yes,
of the trailer
of
that we
that
saw.
trailer. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think that trailer may be in part responsible for the legend that Admiral Akbar became, because that was one of the incredible moments before the movie ever came out that people saw that terrified them. And
Right.
um, so I think that kind of stuck in people's heads. But
Admiral Akbar terrified people.
well, at that moment where the
No, it's just the moment of him yelling
yeah,
at the trap and
it's a
all
trap
these like
and
dozens
suddenly
of TIE
What the?
fighters.
yeah,
This
you
lobster
see a
creature is
battle that is on a
terrifying.
scale that you've never seen in
Yeah,
Star Wars
exactly.
occurring behind him, and it's like, oh no. Okay.
How did we describe him in the? Yeah, was he called Admiral Akbar or was he called a fish
Yes,
creature?
it's called it says Admiral Akbar, a new creature character, says it's a trap. Evidently, he is aboard a spaceship. The window behind him can be seen many ships racing through space and moving at speed. The main reason I chose Admiral Akbar, I think that even though he's a minor character, and he has a kind of mythos that has become broader than what his screen time in the movies, is that he has a special place in my memories of school, because there was a point when my school ran a campaign to try to adopt Admiral Akbar as the official mascot for our football team. And the students ran the campaign, and it got national recognition. And George Lucas ended up writing to us himself and thanking us for inviting Admiral Akbar. But he said that he was on a special mission in a distant galaxy, and he couldn't lead our team.
Very
But
diplomatic, George.
yeah, he knew the force would be with us. But yeah, what we were really expecting to happen would be Lucasfilm would come down on us for copyright infringement, but instead
Right.
they were very gracious and said, no, well, he can't do that. So Admiral Akbar's, we've wanted him at our school for so many years, and I've loved him ever since that first Return of the Jedi trailer. So he's one of my all-time favorites.
Excellent.
Awesome.
All right. So, my turn. So my number 10 is Clone Trooper 5s.
Oh.
So for fans of the Clone Wars, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He was a former ARC trooper. He was one of the main characters established in the first season of Clone Wars, with my favorite, probably my all-time favorite episode of Clone Wars called Rookies. Which basically told the story of 4 of the clone troopers on their very first mission, and he was one of the ones that basically stayed from that point all the way through the entire 6 seasons of the show. Obviously, it's going again, but at the time, it stopped after 6 seasons. And his claim to fame, basically, I guess, in Star Wars lore and the canon, is that he's the only clone trooper to ever actually uncover Order 66, the plot behind Order 66 before it actually happened.
Right,
And
there was a series of episodes about that, right?
yeah, that's basically the first roughly 4 or 5 episodes of season 6, which is technically dubbed the Lost Missions for Clone Wars. That storyline, that story arc details that whole story, and it's really, really interesting, very dark, but it's really good. Really good. So anyway, I always had kind of an affinity for that character. I just thought he was really cool because he was one of the ones that kind of showed you a little bit more about what it was like to be a clone trooper. You kind of got inside their head a little bit, just giving them personalities and showing them how they interacted with one another. It was one of my favorite things about Clone Wars. So that's my number 10.
That's cool. All right, unexpected.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now my number 9 was probably also unexpected. Cad Bane. The bounty hunter
coming in strong with the Clone Wars characters.
He, for those of you who aren't familiar, he was.
He's the guy with the hat, right?
Yeah. The really wide brimmed hat, and wore a lot of times the breathing mask. But he's just again a bounty hunter, featured quite a lot. I know he's been in some of the novels, but most prominently he's in tons of episodes of Clone Wars, and just, I don't know, I just like how they fleshed him out. They gave him such a cool personality. He was involved in a lot of the high stakes stuff that was going on during the Clone Wars, and just, I don't know, I just really love. I mean, he's like one of the few non-Jedi characters who actually could potentially give a Jedi a run for his money in some of the fight scenes. So there's a lot of times when he would get the upper hand on him, and you actually thought for a minute, it was like, man, what? You know, it's like this bounty hunter is going to take out Obi-Wan. You know, it's pretty interesting.
Didn't Obi-Wan go undercover as Cad Bane at some point or something?
It was actually with Cad Bane, because Cad Bane didn't know it was Obi-Wan.
Oh, I see.
But yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it was Cad Bane was leading the mission, and he was basically infiltrating that way.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. I knew he was involved somehow.
Nine is Cad Bane. All right, so back to Gundark for number 9.
My number 9 is Chewbacca.
Oh, very.
And yeah, he had to make it in the top 10. I had thought about bumping him up a little higher, but there's a kind of mark because of his family. Although I know I shouldn't hold his family against him.
You don't like Lumpy?
Lumpy is branded on my brain. But the recent Solo movie did so much to make Chewie even more important, and the connection between Han and Chewie. Every scene between them in that movie was wonderful. And I love the new guy playing Chewbacca in the new films. He acts through the mask so beautifully. The scenes in Force Awakens and then in Solo, where he's playing off of Han and looking skeptical, and Han showing him his cards.
That takes talent. That takes talent. I mean, to be able to act through a mask like that and still be able to impart facial expressions and feelings through a mask like that.
Yeah, and I was thinking about when we first saw him on screen in the cantina when we were kids. You know, the cantina was already so amazing with all the creatures there, but to see him walk up and start talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know, and you can't even hear what their conversation is, this huge furry guy.
Right.
And then to have him sit down next to Han Solo and all of the stuff he looks so intimidating, and then all of his fear in the garbage compactor was wonderful.
Oh yeah, that's one of the greatest. That's one of the greatest scenes.
Yeah,
so classic.
And then to be followed up by the chess playing scene on board the Millennium Falcon is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So,
he's
I love Chewbacca. He had to make it into the top 10 for me.
Okay.
Good choice.
Rock and roll. All right. So number 9 for Greedo.
Number 9 for me is Lando Calrissian. And again, for me, this is sort of a pat expected list, because you know, you could say a character like Fives or Ahsoka Tano or somebody like that, but I just got to stick with the ones that got me here. Arrive at the crew that got you here. And Lando, I always thought was an awesome character, an awesome addition. Kind of the end of Empire, that scene where he's in the Falcon. I guess he's probably wearing some of Han's, leftover clothes or something, but he has more of the Old West look with the buttoned up collar. He almost looks like a sheriff or a preacher or something from one of the old Westerns. I think that was the moment where I was kind of sold on him. Like, man, he just fits right in, and I wanted to see where he was going next with Chewbacca. The fact that they kind of started off as enemies and Chewbacca was willing to accept him, and they got on board together. And then he and Han Solo, it's just a shame in Jedi they didn't have more time together, because
I agree.
The little bit of banter that they had, and that almost makes part of that whole Sarlacc pit stuff when they're joking about I thought you were blind, and the banter back and forth. Billy D. Williams, really, really good actor, and just like when you mentioned Alec Guinness or Obi-Wan when he met Chewbacca in the cantina, imagine Alec Guinness. This classical actor with an 8-foot tall Wookiee guy, and just come on, Alec, go in there and talk to him. Like, the way they sold that was just brilliant. It's just normal, and there are characters in movies that no matter how outlandish it is, they walk you through it and you accept it. And Alec Guinness was one of those actors that no matter what happened around him, you could believe it because it was Alec Guinness standing there. And I think
Right.
Billy D. Williams does that a lot in Empire and Jedi, and makes you, just says this is just come along, it's fine. And he has that charisma that draws you in. Also, I thought about dividing these up into like young Lando, old Lando, stuff like that, but there's not enough spaces on a top 10. But Donald Glover was brilliant as young Lando, and it just solidifies the character even more. And we have not heard the last of Lando Calrissian, I don't think. Obviously,
No.
he's going to be back in 9. And
Mhm.
uh, I mean, if ever a character deserved a standalone, I think it's him out of the main, original trilogy. Whether they use Donald Glover or someone else or whatever, there's a lot of stories there to tell. So Lando's my number 9, definitely.
Okay. All right. Excellent choice. Okay. So continuing on, Greedo, number 8 for you.
Okay, my number 8 is Chewbacca, and
you go.
he's got to be on this list because, like so many of the characters, he's been in so many movies.
Yeah.
You see Chewbacca and you believe it's Star Wars immediately. They've done brilliant casting with the new guy Jonas, I think is how you pronounce his first name.
Yeah.
I won't even try his second name, but he's really a fan friendly, nice guy. Like everybody said, super talented, obviously,
Yeah.
and he really manages to nail the walk, the posture, even the resting attitude and everything that makes you believe it's still Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Which we've said before. When you read a little bit on Empire Strikes Back, they had to wait on Chewbacca scenes when Peter Mayhew was in the hospital for a couple of days because they tried other tall guys and they said it is not a Wookiee anymore. It's a guy in a suit.
Right, because they don't have the same
Right.
mannerisms. They
No,
build the
there's
same
something
way, yeah.
about the way he sold it originally. So you gotta give credit, to the original and to the new. What a great smooth transition. Chewbacca finally got some cool parts in Solo. You could re-edit that movie and make it his movie, no problem whatsoever. We'll
Yep.
forget all about the holiday special and the lingering close-ups of his creepy family faces with their weird hair and teeth and eyes staring.
We'll forget it.
Yeah, no, we'll forget it. We'll just get rid of that.
We'll forget it.
I
Okay.
will never be able to forget the Harrison Ford coming through the door and, oh, hey, Lumpy, how you? Oh, it's okay, kid. And Lumpy's like grabbing his leg. Oh, it's Han Solo. It's like, oh my God. But that doesn't spoil the legacy.
It doesn't sound
really.
like you're forgetting it.
That was early on. I can't forget it. Who am I kidding?
I
Something
know
like that is seared in your brain.
But you know what? History will never be. We need to invent a time machine so we can go back and give Chewbacca a medal to do the special editions and not have Chewbacca end up just even looking at his medal in a case or something later is a travesty. It's a travesty. Chewbacca's number 8 for me. Let's move along. Move along.
All right.
Move along.
All right, so moving on to Gundark, your number 8.
My number 8 is Rey.
Ooh.
And especially from Force Awakens, frankly, I would have had her higher in the list, I think, except
I thought you would.
I was a little disappointed in. I didn't feel like her story arc moved forward enough in Last Jedi, and I liked what happened in the Solo films that bumped some of the other characters up for me in the Solo films. So
That's
Rey was
interesting,
originally
yeah.
a little bit higher in my list. But I love Rey, first of all, of course, because a lady Jedi.
She's not a Jedi yet.
Not a Jedi yet. Well, she is now.
Really?
Yeah, she is now.
Where'd you get that memo?
Well, Luke said he's not the last Jedi, and then
He
it
said,
cut to her.
I will not be the last Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Said
Well,
I didn't say I am not.
whatever. But she said,
Past
Doesn't
tense
matter,
or
she's a Jedi.
future tense or whatever. It isn't present tense.
For our argument's sake, she's a Jedi.
Okay.
she's there
Ooh,
to take
Grillian
it up.
speaks with authority.
And I think, and I think, like I've said before, I'm not real familiar with the expanded universe or the Clone Wars universe where you had like Ahsoka and female Jedi with main roles. So for me, she was the first, to be a central character, female character wielding the lightsaber. And the whole Force Awakens story arc of her claiming the lightsaber at the end meant a lot to me. that Arthurian moment of the sword and the stone where the lightsaber goes to her instead of Kylo Ren.
Right.
And then when she presents it to Luke, I felt like I was standing in her shoes and my hero was looking at me, and that was a great moment. So I can't, she has to be in the top 10 characters for me solely because of that. But then I also liked how she was, Daisy Ridley played her so beautifully, I thought, in Force Awakens, where she made her very sympathetic.
Yeah,
she was a good every woman character, every man, every woman, whatever you want to call it.
She was tough and independent, but you also felt her tremendous loneliness and her need to feel like she was doing something heroic or to do something beyond her life on the junk world. And so it was nice to see a female character that had a heroic story arc like that you could really relate to as a central character. So she had to make it in the top 10 for me. Number 8.
Star Wars excels at simplicity, and certain characters, their traits right when you meet them. Darth Vader's the bad guy. Princess Leia's the heroine. And Rey, they did a great job with that. And the fact that you felt by the end of the first movie that you were standing in her shoes means that she did, and they did a phenomenal job of making you identify with her.
Yeah.
So, mission accomplished on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my number 8. Who goes next?
That would be me.
Okay.
Okay. So my number 8 is, you'll sense a pattern growing here, is Hondo Onaka.
Oh, Hondo.
So
you've been watching too much Clone Wars lately.
I've been watching a lot of Clone Wars.
You've been beaming Clone Wars into the brain continuously.
But this character is great. He's so. Are you guys familiar with what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay, he's a pirate. And he leads, basically he's like this head pirate, as it were. He has a whole band that works under him, and he makes tons of appearances throughout all 6 seasons of the Clone Wars.
And in Rebels.
The way honestly, you just got to give credit to the writers, because they write such a well-rounded character with him. Not only is he comic relief, because they give him all the best lines. If he's in an episode, he's going to get the best lines. He's sarcastic. He's not the stereotypical pirate. He's not just "Arr, I'm bad," I'm gonna come steal your stuff. He does it in such a cavalier way that it's really kind of becoming to the character. It's just, you kind of got to see him to kind of get the feel of it. But I love how he's written. I love, he's also, and it's funny too, because not only is he at 1 minute funny and charming, to go that far to say charming, then he turns right around and he's doing something despicable.
He's a little bit sinister sometimes. Yeah,
right. He's still driven, by these, by those pirate motivations, of just, I'm just in this for the money. I'm just here to get what I want. And if you're not coming along for a ride, then you're out. So yeah, he's a great character. So my number 8 is Hondo Onaka.
That's wonderful that we have another pirate other than Han Solo in the top 10.
He's a true pirate, yeah. Hondo's a true pirate. And I remember the line that kind of summed him up was when one episode when his crew turned on him and he said, "What? You've betrayed me? You've turned on me? I've never been so proud of you." Or something like that, yeah. And it pretty much sums him up. Because
his crew had abandoned him to serve Darth Maul at that point.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay, so it's my turn again with number 7, and I am going with Leia Organa.
Oh, that's pretty low. Is it Clone Wars Leia, though, or is it...
No, it's CGI Rogue One Leia.
Oh, there you go.
Just that one scene.
Of course.
No, Leia is number 7. Some of these characters, I don't know that there's that much we really need to say about them, because we already kind of know why that they're there. But yeah, she's always been such an amazing, strong female character, especially coming out when the original Star Wars was released. At the time, that really wasn't the way films were going. You didn't have that strong female presence in films, and she did that. And the fact that she was so young, Carrie Fisher, and brought that character so much life with so much power, and was literally just controlling, the situation between these two male kids, this male dominated cast. And there were scenes when she was literally just pulling them by their nose, basically. They couldn't do anything about it. But yeah, she's such an amazing character, and we're really lucky to have had so many films with her.
Mm.
And what
Okay, so
a what
that's
a what a great sense of humor they gave that imbued that character with too. That how many characters have they tried to give that sense of humor to over time, and it falls flat because it's
Yeah.
annoying. But she got away with calling, "Get this walking carpet out of my way," and
Yeah.
everybody laughed their ass off. You know, it was great. And she could insult Han Solo, and you're like on her side. And even
Hmm.
Han was like, "Are you kidding?" But he loved it. And
yeah.
I don't know how she pulled that off, but the sense of humor in that first Star Wars movie, I wish they had carried that forward more. Because that was such a defining characteristic in the first one. But like I said, it tends to grate on a lot of characters when it's poorly written or poorly delivered. And they did a brilliant job of, because you're in a Star Wars movie, who's going to have the gall to say this is a big walking carpet? Yeah, because it could take you right out of the film and go, he is a big walking carpet. Look how fake he is. But she said what everybody was thinking while maintaining that wall, where you weren't taken out. Anyway, I'll stop. But I love that about that character. The sense of humor in that first movie is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of that the character was imbued with Carrie Fisher's own personality to a great degree,
Sure.
as that you see
I
any of
agree.
the
Yeah.
interviews and things and her other work, and you begin to understand that. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, had another actress, played that, we'll never know, of course, but I can't see them pulling it off with her
No.
personality that
Mhm.
Carrie brought to that role. So,
When you
all
think
right,
of
so
actresses from that time, it just seems like it'd be a disaster. I
Mhm.
right.
can't think of anybody when they talk about casting any of those characters with anyone else. I don't think it would work.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. So that's
Move
my number
along.
7 is
Move
Leia.
along, move
So
along.
moving on to Gundark with your number 7.
Okay, my number 7 is Yoda.
Ah,
Yoda, yeah.
very nice.
Again, I have to go back to when we talked about our top 10 Star Wars movies, and Empire Strikes Back was my favorite. To a great degree, it was because of Yoda. The success of Yoda as a character in that movie, despite the fact that he was a puppet. Go back to
And he
the
had the voice of Fozzie Bear.
Yes, he had the voice of Fozzie Bear. He was a little green gnome. He was a puppet.
Yeah.
He was so beautifully performed by Frank Oz, and the photography of him on Dagobah in that film was so wonderful. It just sold it where he seemed like he was a real character in the physical world. You were
Right.
never thinking of him as a puppet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to this day, I watch Empire Strikes Back, and it's just a living, breathing organism.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a puppet.
No.
It's so real.
And he has a real personality that has depth and complexity, because when you meet him, he's a complete trickster. He's hilarious. He's wonderful.
Right.
And then there's the about face where you know really from the beginning who he is. And Luke doesn't recognize it, but And when he makes the about face where he reveals who he is, and he plays the trickster with consummate glory, and then the wise mentor perfectly. And the trickster, you could get by with a puppet maybe doing something like that, but when you're going to give the whole background, the mysticism of the Force and the Jedi religion and everything to a puppet, you're taking a real chance. And he really
Real
sold,
chance. Yeah.
yeah, he sold the mysticism of it. I love him in the other films in which he appears. I haven't seen a lot, like I said, of his appearance in the cartoons. But I love his work in the other films, but especially Empire Strikes Back. I have to put him in the top 10 because of
Yeah.
that performance alone. So.
Absolutely.
And also, we'll do an episode, maybe or a trench run on this later, but one of the best death scenes in Star Wars ever, I think.
Yeah.
In Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't know how, when I was a young person, how I didn't cry at that scene
Yeah.
in the theater the first time. But the interaction between Luke and Yoda was always amazing. Another thing that, like, how did this happen? How did they happen to cast a guy in Mark Hamill who could act with puppets
Yeah.
with the enthusiasm and
Right.
and for
And
months
sell it
and
like
months
he
and
did,
sell it
yeah.
and never once give you the hint that he knew this was all BS. I don't know how they pull that off. But the scene where in Yoda's hut, where it's Luke and Yoda and Obi-Wan, amazing, just
Oh,
incredible.
absolutely.
And then it's reflected in Jedi in the hut when Yoda passes away, and the look that Luke gives when Yoda dies. Um,
Yes.
Again, I don't know how they managed to capture what we're supposed to feel with what we actually feel. There's
Hmm.
always a huge disconnect in a lot of media with what we're supposed to feel and what we actually feel. But I felt exactly like Luke did in that moment when I saw it. There
Hmm.
was no disconnect whatsoever. And that's what builds connections between characters and us as an audience, is when we feel the same
Right.
thing and they don't have to telegraph it. It was all in
Yeah.
the look, and it was all in the music, and it was all in that moment. And when Yoda died, we were all kind of crushed, and
Yeah.
we all felt something. So anyway,
Yeah,
I don't know how you pull that off.
he
It's like
was
it's
my
like
number
magic
7.
when you pull that off, and it's unusual and weird and fantastic. So great
Okay.
choice. I'm next, right?
Yes.
Yep.
My number 7 is Emperor Palpatine, and or Chancellor, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Um, Look, I could have put the Stormtrooper at number 7. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
technically allowed, but I really think the Stormtrooper, if you're going to call it a character, should be on my list somewhere, but it's not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to go
Same.
with
I
individual. I had to
actually
go with
considered.
individual characters.
I considered the same
This
thing. I
would have
thought I
been the
should just
spot
put
I would have
a
put the
stormtrooper on
Stormtrooper,
there.
because the Stormtrooper is one of the most amazing, iconic designs.
Absolutely.
We heard Clone Wars. We don't know if it's the same guy every time or not, but
Yeah.
you get that's the faceless thing of it and everything.
Hmm.
But anyway, Emperor Palpatine took the spot, and he had to be on here for me because he is. I stand by this. To me, he is the only character that is from the original trilogy that was successfully redefined in the prequel trilogy. And you would have hoped
Good point.
that some characters that pre-existed, like Anakin, for instance, would have been successfully redefined, and we would see them in new ways. Well, we did, but I never really fully bought any of the other characters. Obi-Wan's the closest, but there's still a little bit of a disconnect there for me for Obi-Wan. He wasn't redefined. He was the hero all the way through. But Palpatine, if you didn't know, you wouldn't recognize him as
Hmm.
as the Senator Palpatine in Phantom Menace.
Right.
If you didn't know it was the actor, if you weren't paying attention,
Hmm.
um, he's also this hooded, cloaked Darth Sidious. Um, then in the Attack of the Clones, to me, his small little part in that was the biggest significant progression that happened in that movie. I mean, I know they had to move along the love story and all that, but him rising in the ranks to become Supreme Chancellor and the way he manipulated everyone, everything was the kind of central plot device of the whole prequel trilogy. Then Revenge of the
Hmm.
Mm.
Sith, you get to see the two sides of his personality come together, and he's becomes
Right.
powerful enough to where he can cast aside uh, Chancellor Palpatine that's like a mask, and Darth Sidious can just come out and play and hang out. And by Jedi, this is the guy we see. This is Darth Sidious.
Mm.
They can call him Emperor Palpatine all they want. He's Darth Sidious. And I did not like the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. It took me years to grow accustomed to him. When we were seeing it in the
Me
theater when we were
too.
young, I was
Hmm.
very irritated by the dude. And
Yeah.
I felt like he was the awesome confrontations between Luke and Vader is what I wanted to see. The Emperor
Yeah.
Yeah.
was like this guy
Exactly.
just butting in. I also
Yeah.
didn't think the
Hmm.
Emperor was a wizard or a Jedi or whatever. So
Right.
even though he appeared in Empire Strikes Back, I still didn't fully register that this is who this guy was. When he showed up with a
Hmm.
cane and cackling and just being over the top, I was like, I can't hate this. I hate him for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
over time, I really began to, kind of more buy into the fact that he's just an evil Yoda. He's a symbol. He's a representative of the old guard, in old age, and the problems with old age. And Luke, the young person, and the younger generation that's fighting against to topple it and bring idealism and hope and something new to it. So, you begin to be more forgiving of it. And of course, a mystique and a whole uh, legend or whatever you want to call it
Hmm.
grew up around the dark side, the lightning, the red eyes, the everything. So you begin to expand just by the nature of Star Wars. You got to have toys to sell and series to sell. So you begin to expand on that, and he becomes more and more interesting to me. And in the prequels, Ian McDermott is still alive. He's doing phenomenal work. It brought continuity, recognizability, and It redefined the character, and I was interested in seeing what happened to him, unlike most of the characters in the prequels for me personally.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's got to be on the list for me. He wouldn't have been on the list
Okay.
if you were just taking an original trilogy at all. But when you take the
Right.
whole thing, he almost redeems the prequels for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And he's great in Rebels. Um, I mean, he just does a fun, and also the actor is just a prince of a human being,
Yes.
and he will autograph things for people, put long inscriptions. He's just always gracious and a wonderful person. So that really shouldn't affect the character, but it does a little bit for me, and that's why he's my number 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
So
Excellent
much
choice.
for being brief.
mhm.
All right. So your go again, Greedo, with number 6.
Oh, number 6 is Yoda. And Gundark said exactly my thoughts on it. And I even, when I was talking about his death scene and stuff, this is the iconic Star Wars character next to Darth Vader, I think, that has lasted decades and decades. I think he took a hit in the prequels. And
It
words
looks a
can't.
little bit peaked.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
He recovered a lot in Revenge of the Sith. I didn't understand where he was coming from in the first 2 movies, and up to the point where he even advises Anakin, just let go of people who are going to die.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get that. I
That
mean, that
was-
really seemed like it was done on purpose just to give Anakin more reasons to look to the dark side for help.
Right.
But if we had set up the philosophy better, I would understand it. But I don't even see that as being really. I don't think Yoda would do that. I think Yoda would understand Anakin's position a little better. But anyway, so the prequels, he took a hit just like the Force took a hit, just like the mysticism took a hit. He's at his peak in Empire. He is our instructor, teacher on the Force, and the best explanation of the Force that's ever been done is Empire Strikes Back. I don't think he'll ever be topped to me. And what was I going to say last? I don't particularly like Yoda in the last season of Clone Wars. I watched that and I was very disappointed in it, in the explanation of how he learned this technique to become a Force ghost and all that stuff. I just didn't think that any of that was well written or well done, which I was very disappointed in. But anyway, he's still number 6, and
Okay.
because of the just iconic place that he is. I last thought I did not like him in The Last Jedi at all. So I'm glad he made the appearance, but I was like, I had my moment where I went, oh my god, because I didn't know I was spoiler free. I was like, it's Frank Oz, it's the puppet, but it was disappointment from that point on. It was cool he was there, but I still don't get it. I don't understand what the point of the appearance was. He was putting forward a story that I don't believe in and couldn't connect to, which is opposite the Yoda I know. So, but still, he's number 6 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not your best work, Yoda.
All right, Gundark, you're number 6.
My number 6 is Lando Calrissian.
Wow, he's way up the list.
Yes.
Higher than Ray. I wouldn't have thought that.
He jumped up with Donald Glover's performance in Solo.
Yeah.
I loved Lando, but I would always put Han, Leia, Luke higher just because we've been with them longer in part. But Donald Glover's performance was one of the highlights of that film, and when I heard he was cast in the new Solo movie, I was really hoping for great things, and I got even better than what I hoped for, and I really would love to see more Lando adventures with him playing Lando. And so he kind of rejuvenated that character for me. Not that Billy D. Williams was wonderful, but it's been so long, I haven't watched it. Like I said, again, any of the expanded universe stuff in which Billy D. Williams appeared in some of the Lego and Rebels and some of the animated shows.
He's a phenomenal voice actor.
Yeah.
He is. He really brings a lot to any voice thing that he does.
Well, I can see from this, I'm going to have to start looking at some of the stuff in the expanded universe and then the Legends universe, and especially Clone Wars. Yes, Clone Wars. I gotta do Clone Wars. I can see this now.
You're doing yourself such a disservice by not watching that.
Okay, I
have
promise.
no idea.
That's my assignment. Then I have to begin Clone Wars. I love Billy D. Williams, but I also love Donald Glover now, and I really want more Lando now. So Lando jumps right up in the list for me.
Excellent. Good call.
Somebody
All
ought
right.
to do. Have you guys ever heard Donald Glover's "This Is America"?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Somebody ought to do. This is Corellia. Building the ships, yo. Yeah, this is Corellia.
Nice. All right. Can we take like a 2-minute break
Yeah.
and come back and do the 5 through 1? Okay. I'm gonna stop.